Okay.
I know you're recording, but we were just at Cheese Board, listening to music, eating pizza.
What was it today?
Just heaven is what it was.
I always like the corn ones.
Oh, I mean, it's the best pizza I've ever had in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
My dad was very impressed.
Oh, your dad's in town?
Hmm.
That's nice.
He flew in yesterday.
I miss cheese board.
It is sitting out there with like blue skies and the band and the windows are open is pretty much the dream.
Yeah. I feel like the first time I went to cheese board, I was like, this is the bay. Like, this is the life that people love here.
Yeah, remind me to tell you about what some post grads we're talking about.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's definitely Berkeley life.
Yeah, when we were students, we used to go like right before they closed for lunch, and they would just give us all the leftover pizza.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Because
Cool.
they like it's so fresh. They're not reheating it. Hey, Charles.
Hey.
Hey team. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
I should probably change from being at the stadium.
I know. When I joined, I was at City Hall.
I think Jenny called yesterday for a meeting and it was like jazz brunch band. And she was like, what is this? Like, what are you doing?
I definitely think it was a cute addition to
I
that.
did too. Did y'all get all my emails from people?
No, maybe.
Kathy,
Hi, Kathy.
hi.
Hi, everybody. How are you doing?
Great.
Good.
How are you?
My background. Good. How about? Oh, sorry. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday.
Happy, beautiful Saturday.
It's very nice out.
I know. I think next time we have a virtual meeting, we should just make everybody be outside during the meeting so we can all just be together outside, but on our computers.
Yeah. I'm kind of outside in my background.
I have my window open. Hey, Rachel.
Wait.
I am not outside, but I do have a door open.
I got the window open.
My home office is completely dismantled, so that's why I'm sitting in another room.
What happened? Are you moving?
No, painting. It needs
got it.
better light. I feel like I'm in a cave all day, and so
that will be nice for you, for your office, to have that light in there.
brighter light. Yeah, because it is dark.
Hi, everyone. I'm calling in. It's Carol Hamilton. I'm calling in from Washington State.
Hi, Carol.
Hi, Carol.
Hey,
Hi.
Carol.
I'm just coming from my niece's white coat ceremony.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah, it was really
Rodolfo.
lovely.
Well, I don't know if this is bad or good news, y'all, but at the law school, the trustees had their meeting in person and there was no AC and the elevators didn't work. So I think that made the right call.
It's working now, Sarah?
Everything's working now.
Oh, after the meeting's over?
People were able to take the elevator out.
Well, there you go. It's about what you remember at the end.
Yeah.
Mario Ernesto Lopez, all the way from Poland. Hello.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Meredith.
Hey, Mario.
Hey.
So, Meredith, at the U.S. Mission in New York, our elevators for 22 floors, both of them have been not operational for a few months. It's been such a nightmare. You can't even imagine.
Carol, you know how I feel about that. We got to think about the people that can't walk up all those stairs. Not okay.
Well, no, I mean, no, the elevators, it's just that they're not working properly and people were getting stuck in them. I mean, this is the federal government. Not good.
Not good.
We had that at a building I worked in for a period of time, and the elevators would either not open or they would, and they'd be stuck between floors. And sometimes when they stopped between floors, naturally and for safety reasons, the doors would not open, right? But somebody who was in our department was claustrophobic, so he pried the doors open and then crawled out on his belly. And I said, the problem with that, because I actually had a case involving it where somebody's legs then swung under the floor and then they fell down the elevator shaft past the elevator and died, of course. And it was actually a pretty well-known claim where it happened. And it was like, that, and the elevator can start moving again and cut you in half. So I was like, please don't do that again.
Yeah.
And it finally got the building to work on the elevators. We'd been complaining about them being stuck. But Carol, 22 floors. That's horrible.
No, so they've had to, it's really, I'm telling you, like, this is a great lawsuit, but of course they can't sue. But, so then they have to use, everyone has to use the, what do you call it? The service elevator, but then they have to alternate because you can't have too much weight on the service elevator. So some people, who can walk are walking like 15 floors or whatever. So you're getting in lots of steps and lots of exercise. So that's amazing. But it's quite amazing, I mean, this is where like a lot of meetings take place. So it's pretty crazy.
That is crazy. Hey, Barbara.
Hi, how's everyone doing? Good afternoon.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi, believe it or not, I had another community type meeting, so I had to run from that to this one.
Oh,
Anyway, good to see everyone.
busy day.
So we can get started. I presume, Meredith, thank you so much. So I will open this meeting at 1:34. Sorry, we're a little late starting, but I think we're going to be efficient and get through this and still have you all done by 3:30. And so first on the agenda, just wanted to make sure everyone had an opportunity to look at the packet that was sent out earlier this week. Within the packet, we had 2 sets of meeting minutes. We had the minutes from the February Board of Governors meeting. And then we also had minutes from the special meeting held in April related to changing the name of our board to align with the new name for the law school. And so both minutes were incorporated in the packet. And so I want to see if there are any changes proposed for either sets of minutes. Okay, having no changes, then can we someone can make a motion to adopt both minutes as currently submitted?
Do we have a quorum? Do we have a sufficient number of people? I see.
We do based on our bylaws, but I believe we do, but I will just double check really quickly. So we have,
You do.
We need 10, so
yeah, we need 10, and I know we have some guests here, so thank you for pointing that out, Rachel. So let me just double check. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, we have enough for quorum. But thank you so much for double checking. Yeah, that was good for me because we have guests, and so I just saw all the boxes. Thank you. Okay, great. So then, can someone make a motion to adopt both sets of minutes as drafted?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so moved in second to adopt our minutes for both the February Board of Governors meeting and the special April meeting. So that motion, the motion carries. And so next, I just wanted to quickly go through the president's report. And I think I could share my screen, Hannah, right? I can. Okay, perfect. It'll be really brief. I know we all are very busy here. So just really quickly, I wanted to just start off by thanking everyone who has been so pivotal in what our board has done in the last year. So starting in September, first, I just want to thank each of our governors who have donated time that they may not have initially planned to donate, or to contribute to the board. So many of you have been pivotal in helping to continue to engage our alumni, to support our student population as well, and all the things that come up. I think we've all kind of identified that this current set of students have just unique issues and challenges and different issues that maybe we did not have, but many of you have stepped in to support them in so many ways. I just want to thank every governor on this call who've done something this year to support them. And I'm going to highlight in more detail on the next slide what many of you have done in support of our school community. And then I also want to thank, special thanks, I will say, to Meredith, to Charles, and to Hannah, who I don't know when they sleep, and I don't know how they respond to emails as quickly as they do, but they somehow see emails and respond to them so quickly and with substantive and supportive answers, and are just, you know, not just awesome people as far as just how professional they are, but also just kind and nice and make this so much fun. And this is, we're a volunteer board, but sometimes it does take time. So when you have such a warm and welcoming set of staff members supporting you, it just makes it feel like it's not work at all. And it's really not, but they really make it feel like it's not work, and it's so much fun. And Robin, even though Robin's technically not in a part of our group, she's been great as well. So many people that have been a part of supporting the board in the last year. I just want to thank all of you for what you've done. So just really quickly, the next slide, let me make sure you all can see this. So do you see the highlights of the board? Okay, great. So I just wanted to quickly just highlight again for all of you on all of the governors and what you've done in this last year, which has been, you know, so pivotal to our role as ambassadors of the Alumni Association. Many of you or several of you have either hosted events and raised funds in so many ways to support student scholarships specifically. So we recognize the need to give some financial support to students, and so many of you stepped up in some way or another to help with scholarship fundraising. And that's just so important to not just give them on top of what we're already doing, I should say, which is also important, the mentorship and everything else, but to help give students an opportunity to financially get through law school is amazing. Many of you have partnered with our staff at the law school to strategically support students. So think about, you know, maybe panels, the way we did it before is something we need to do something different today, or the way you engage with students is different today. And you guys have been so flexible in working with staff to determine how we can be strategic in our support for law students. Many of you, as we know, have supported alumni chapter events, have really been pivotal in launching alumni chapters, getting sponsors, organizing the events, and getting people excited to participate. So I thank all of you for that. Many of you have supported some of the affinity groups as well in different ways. You continue to mentor students and recent graduates. You help as needed to support job searches and internship searches and give students guidance on how to be successful when they do get those opportunities. So thank you for that. Some of you have helped with ad hoc committees that we did not have before this year, but we got requests from the board of directors and others to support some of their engagement initiatives. And I appreciate all of you who joined in on those ad hoc committees to support that. And I will be, for one of the ad hoc committees, I'm going to present to the board of directors on that later this month. And I will definitely recognize all of you who joined that ad hoc committee to help increase some of the engagement with people who had stopped donating in the last few years. Again, we've had special meetings. So you already were told you had 3 meetings a year, but we ended up having a couple of extra meetings to get things done. And many of you stepped up to join those special meetings. So I appreciate that. A lot of you either participated in Spring Week or engaged others to come and participate in Spring Week, and you helped send out the marketing or message around Spring Week. And then lastly, which you'll hear from Rodolfo shortly, is the amazing and diverse candidates we have for our slate of governors coming into the next year. And it's because of many of you who have found really strong candidates and recommended those candidates to us. So thank you all for your work, and can continue to help keep us with a full board of governors with dynamic alumni. So one other point that I did want to highlight, and also again, those of you who supported our last meeting with your financial support with your law firms, thank you for that as well. So one other highlight I do want to add here, just a preview. So speaking of special meetings, we're going to have another one that will be led by our president-elect, who will be president at the time, Barbie Appelquist. And that's going to be in the summer of 2023. But we wanted to preview it for you now so you have an idea of what's coming. But there will be a meeting for you to ask more specific questions. We didn't have time today, but we just wanted to at least put it on your radar because it just got on our radar a couple of weeks ago and I didn't want to not mention it. So we had a special call, a few of us had a special call with our GC office. And in the process of her going through our bylaws and looking at some of the changes we had made with respect to our name change, it was pointed out that in our bylaws, we identify as a 501c3 nonprofit organization registered with the, the federal government as well as the state. And so that led to some research, and we were notified that our 501c3 status is inactive and not in good standing because we have not, I guess since November 2017, there hasn't been all of the necessary filings done with the IRS with respect to like the tax related documentation. And then for California Secretary of State, if you're a corporation here as well, nonprofit or otherwise, then there are certain forms that have to be filed as well annually. And so those files also were not filed since February 2014. And so this all kind of came out when we were in the process of updating the bylaws. And so one thing that's interesting, it looks like there has been some ongoing tax forms filed with the California Franchise Tax Board. So that was the one kind of caveat to us, our organization or the Board of Governors being behind in the filings, is that there was some ongoing filings with the California Tax Board. So essentially what that boils down to is that thinking, on a go forward basis, we have to, in the next meeting, kind of get more information and, have a chance to ask more questions and talk through and vote on what's the best step going forward. What the impact technically as a 501c3, if we were truly operating as a 501c3, would be that you wouldn't be able to transact, we as an organization wouldn't be able to transact certain business things or act as a separate legal entity or hold ourselves out as a tax exempt entity. In practice, we don't do that anyway. We don't raise funds for the Board of Governors. We don't have a separate bank account. We're not handling funds. To the extent we do support fundraising is just to encourage people to donate directly to the law school. So we don't have a separate, process where we don't even have we have a treasurer, but really it's just to support, engagement with fundraising. We don't take funds, this Board of Governors just not. We don't have any assets as a separate entity. We really don't operate like a independent 501c3, and we're more of an advisory board to the Alumni Association and ambassadors for the Alumni Association. So, as you're thinking about how, if you do attend that meeting in the summer, thinking about, is it worth even trying to reinstate the Board of Governors as a 501c3 and whatever the steps that will be outlined in detail, or just sort of, finalize and do what we need to do to close that out and move forward as an advisory board supporting the Alumni Association. So that's sort of the issue that just came up. Like we had a meeting like 2 weeks ago, maybe, and learned about that, the filings for this entity. And so we'll discuss it further, talk about bylaw amendments and how governors want to move forward. So we thought it was best to do that in the summer where we have more time to dedicate to that issue. And then you'll have the current governors at the time be able to vote on how to move forward. So I just want to stop there. I know that was a lot of information, but just wanted to put it on your radar. So are there any questions? Okay, great. So you'll have a chance to talk about that in more detail. I'm sorry, Professor Martinez. I can't help but call you Professor Martinez. Yes.
No. That was by accident. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, great. Well, thank you, everyone. And I will hand it over to Rodolfo, who's going to cover our new slate of governors for the next board year. Rodolfo.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rodolfo, and I chaired the nominations committee this year. As Barbara said, I'll just reiterate what she said. We have a really good slate. Hopefully, everybody has been able to look at them, look at the people's bios already. When we started, we looked at a lot of names. I think we started looking at about 100 names from previous recommendations, and we started narrowing them down. This year, all of the Board of Governors were actually recommended by other Board of Governors, so I feel it's a really strong slate. In your packet, you actually have the names, titles, and bios of the 6 governors that we are proposing. So if you guys can just take a second and look at them, so that way I don't have to read out names and titles and bios and stuff like that. That would be really helpful. And while you guys do that, I'll just give you guys a little bit of background. I know in the past we've had discussions about how to diversify the Board of Governors and not, diversify in terms of many different things, right? We've talked about class years, locations, professions, and of course, race and gender. And I think this group is a pretty good mix. If you look at something like class years, for example, I think we have ranging from 1996 to 2018. The only thing that I think we didn't do or identify pretty well was the location. I believe everybody is from California. And, that's not necessarily a problematic thing, but I think for the future, as we start thinking about how the Board of Governors can become more of a national board, we do have to start thinking about how to be pulling people from, Hawaii, New York, or other places alum might be at. But other than that, I think this is a really strong slate. We've talked to them all. They all seem really excited. We have a good group who I think is going to add a lot to our team. So I don't know, does anybody have any questions about the governors that we're proposing? Okay, if not, then I believe we need to get a motion, right, to approve the slate of governors.
Yes, can someone make a motion to approve our current slate of governors for the next board year?
I'll move.
Second?
It's a Domies, I'll second.
Okay, great. It's been properly moved in second to accept our full slate of governors for the next board year. So thank you so much. And Rodolfo, thank you. I know it's a lot of work that you're doing on top of your real job. So I appreciate what you've done in the last few months to get this to this point. Thank you. Okay, I think the next agenda item is to turn over to our Chancellor and Dean Figman for his report.
Great. Thank you very much. And hopefully you can hear me okay. First of all, as always, I am deeply in all of your debt, and just thank you so much for all that you do for the school, for our students, for me, and really wonderful support network and great advisors. So thank you. I want to just give you a little bit of an update about the academic village, which is moving along pretty well. The 198 McAllister project will be finishing up in August, and it'll be opening up for our new residents coming in August 4th. So the new classes and the tower will be closed or closing in the fall. So all the folks that are now resident and want to stay on campus will be moving into the 198 project. There are, as you know, 656 units of housing there, and about a third of it is dedicated to UCSF learners. And then in addition to our community, we'll have graduate students from San Francisco State, USF, University of Pacific Dental School, and Berkeley graduate programs. So that's very exciting. I did want all of you to put into your calendars that we will be having a ribbon cutting for the 198 project, as well as a celebration of the new name on the afternoon of October 12th. We'll be sending out a save the date as soon as we have a time set. It'll probably be around 4 or 5 in the afternoon. We have invited luminaries from Sacramento. We are awaiting their responses, but we are optimistic that we'll have some great electeds and personalities from Sacramento. The 100 project will begin immediately after the 198 project opens, as we basically start decommissioning that building. We have secured the services of the architects that worked on 198, Perkins and Will, who will be our architects for 100. And we just completed the contracting with them. And then we're just beginning the negotiations for contracting for our general contractors, which will be Plant. And we anticipate to be Plant if we're successful with the contracting. Essentially, what will happen is once the residents and administrative offices move out of 100, we'll begin what we call phase 1, which will be essentially breaking into walls, removing the asbestos from the Great Hall and hollowing that out and preparing that for renovation. And then they'll begin the demolition of the floors of 100. Under our indenture agreement, we can't start building apartments, which will be part of phase 2, until the 198 project is stabilized, which is defined as 95% occupancy. So we expect that to happen, if not the first year, because the first year is what it is, but by the second year. So we'll be moving forward pretty quickly thereafter. And then, as I believe you all know, we have an option agreement for a parcel of property on the backside of the tower, which is owned by Local 2, which is the Health and Service Workers Union. They're interested in building a new union hall. We would completely demolish their building and potentially build up to 140 feet with a good deal of housing. We're just now working out what the programming would look like, but while we're doing that, we're working on the environmental and CEQA reviews, which are going on as I speak, and will be going on over the next 6 to 8 months or so. So we're moving forward, I think, quite well. And housed in all of that, of course, in addition to our community, will be partners, including, of course, our bedrock partner, UCSF, which continues to grow in terms of our relationship and collaborations. We also, UC Davis's Graduate School of Management has doubled its program and has a Master's of Science program in big data analytics, and we're looking to include other partners to come. Of course, UC Law is the cornerstone of the academic village, and I am happy to say that our admissions office is doing, once again, a great job. It appears that the incoming class coming in the fall of 2023 will actually have higher LSATs and higher GPAs than last year's class. And last year's class, the GPA number actually went up a full point and looks to be higher than that. And the LSAT may go up a point and even potentially 2 points this year. So our applications are very, very strong. The national average is down around 8 or 9%. We're down around 3 or 4%. So we're beating the national average, but it looks to be quite strong. I will say that although we're not on campus, when prospective students come to campus, they are quite impressed with the new buildings, especially being on the sky deck and looking down on City Hall. I suppose in San Francisco, everybody looks down on City Hall, even if they're not on our sky deck. But it really is quite picturesque, and the students seem quite excited about the new buildings. And when 198 opens up, it'll be quite spectacular. And I hope that as many of you as possible will come out on October 12th for what will, I think, be a really terrific celebration. I do want to talk a little bit about, because it's gotten so much publicity, the safety and security and situations in San Francisco. I will say that just a couple of days ago, I walked down McAllister to Market and then down to Union Square, and it's a little depressing. A lot of storefronts have closed up. As you probably heard, Whole Foods closed up, although we're still hoping that they might yet come back if the situation improves in our immediate neighborhood. But Nordstrom Rack and Nordstrom have announced that they will be closing, and a number of other flagship retail establishments are moving out of the city or moving to different parts of the city. It is obviously disappointing. I am not somebody who subscribes to the so-called doom loop of San Francisco. I think, in fact, just first of all, unfortunately, it's alliterative, so people like to say it. But I think by saying it, it ends up becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. I look out, I'm now in Marin, but I look out and we have beautiful blue skies. It's around 68, 70 degrees in San Francisco. I was in San Francisco this morning for the Board of Trustees meeting, and it is just fabulous. And I just don't know that there's another city in the United States, much less more generally, and certainly not in California, that can match it. And so I am I would never count San Francisco out. It just has so much natural beauty and so much opportunity potential. So I think it's going to keep coming back. I did want to take some time, and I want to thank Barbra Diallo and Kathy Angiri for reaching out to me. Many of you probably, this is less pleasant news. Many of you are probably aware that there's a KQED article. So far as I know, it was never broadcast, so it was just on their webpage, but it did get sent around a little bit that raised issues surrounding allegations of discrimination on our campus and the use of the N-word in a class. And so I just want to address that. I think that it's important that the administration be transparent. We, from day one in orientation, we are dedicated, and I'm glad to see Mario here, and he can talk about these issues as well. We have done everything we can. I know that there's still much that we need to do to address diversity, equity, and inclusion issues. We really, with Mario's leadership, just approved a group of community principals that are dedicating our community to welcoming and community and kindness and civil engagement and civil discourse. And there are a lot of difficult issues in the law, but it doesn't mean that we have to be difficult when we talk to one another about them in law school. Also, we do everything we can to give to our students the opportunity to bring to our attention anything that happens on campus. We can't control everything that happens on campus, whether it's student-student interaction or student-staff interaction or staff-staff interaction or faculty-student interaction, but we can do something about it afterwards. But of course, we need to know about it. And if something happens, we have a lot of resources devoted to addressing and redressing those problems, including just on informal, Annie Rosenthal, who's our care advocate, who is a confidential employee. So people can go to her, and she's a licensed therapist, and she can work with them and guide them through our processes, but also guide them through informal resolution. Again, with Mario's leadership, we just hired our first ombuds person, and she has already started. She started this week. And I think that the ombuds person will also be somebody that will be a great resource to our students. Students can also report things both anonymously and non-anonymously, both to my office and separately to the academic dean's office. And so we do encourage and really urge our students to bring to our attention if something happens on campus, whether it is indeed actionable or not perceived as actionable, whatever it is, we need to know about it in order for us to respond to it. I do want to talk a little bit about, and as I told Barbara and Kathy, under federal law, there are restrictions on what I can say. And basically the way FERPA works is if it's in our records, I can't talk about it because of student privacy concerns. However, if it's not in our records and it's in fact an omission, that's actually something I can talk about. So I have obviously talked to our general counsel about what I can say and what I can't say. So I do want to address some of the issues that came up in the KQED article and tell you what we're doing about it. I value your friendship and I value your advice and counsel. And so I want to share these issues with you. So the first issue that was brought up, and again, there was general statements about the sense or lack of sense of community for some of our students of color on campus. But there were several, two in particular instances that were called out that were more concrete. The first matter was concerning a legal research and writing section, and what KQED reported, I'm quoting from the article, it said during a legal research and writing class, Wilhelm, who is the student, was, and this is just quoting the KQED, I'm not providing any additional information. Wilhelm was assigned an oral argument around workplace discrimination. The case involved an employee who called another employee the N-word, and Wilhelm was tasked with defending the perpetrator's employer. Wilhelm recalls being the only Black student in the room, asked to participate, and said she felt alienated when a teacher's assistant told other students they could use the N-word because it was a fact of the case. When she complained to her professor about the experience, the professor brought the issue to Dean of Students Grace Hum, who was also responsible for advising on issues of diversity and inclusion, as well as providing guidance on student and personal life, according to the university's website. But the professor later informed Wilhelm that the dean did not consider it a pressing issue, unquote. We have absolutely no record of this happening outside of the KQED article. I'm not saying that didn't happen, but we don't have any evidence that it did happen. We did talk to Tony Young, who directs the legal writing program. They do not use any materials that have the N-word or use the N-word in them. So that's not part of the materials that were provided. The teaching assistant that was alluded to in the article is an officer in the Black Law Students Association, BALSA, and she did not bring it to our attention, and nobody's brought it to our attention to this day. We have had Emily Hahn, our Director of Student Services, reach out to the student and the other student that complained in the, or made allegations in the article, and they have yet to get back to Emily. Morris Ratner, the Provost and Academic Dean, has contacted the professor in the case, who's an adjunct professor, and to my knowledge, at least as of yesterday, he has not had the opportunity to sit down and talk with her. So again, I can't say we're investigating it. I can't say that the issue came up somehow in a parallel fashion in the class, but in all candor, if this came up in 2023 in a classroom in San Francisco where the TA was a officer of BALSA, it's hard to believe that that would not have exploded in our, it would have certainly come to our attention. Dean Hum told us that no professor ever came to her with this issue, but if one did, certainly on something as explosive as this, she would have brought it to Morris Ratner's attention, and Morris Ratner most certainly would have brought it to my attention. So again, we're looking into it. It's dismaying that if it did happen, and it's dismaying if it didn't. There's no question that the students were sincere in their feelings, and I can say that the 3 students that were mostly quoted, and this is public record, they appeared before the board of directors complaining about Dean Hum at the last meeting in March. They did not complain about any of these issues that were quoted in KQED or by KQED. They were complaining about the Disability Resource Program and the failure, in their view, of DRP to provide accommodation under the Americans with Disabilities Act. We have just a fantastic DRP program, but we monitor it regularly to make sure that they're providing accommodations as required by law. And we go out of our way to provide those accommodations. And in fact, the problem that we actually have is not, so far as I know, with our accommodations, it's with the California Bar's accommodations. And as you may know, the California Bar was recently sued for discrimination under the Americans with Disabilities Act, because many of our students who do get accommodations that we think are appropriate and absolutely proper are not getting accommodated when they take the California Bar. And obviously, if you are getting appropriate accommodations in law school and then you're not accommodated on the bar exam, you're going to be at a major disadvantage on that exam. So I will say the other issue, which did come to our attention and is in the record, so I can't talk about it in great detail, but I can talk about it generally. This is in regard to a statement that one student apparently said to another student, according to KQED, and I'm quoting, during orientation, a fellow classmate taunted Chen over her race, she said. Without prompting, this person immediately was like, you should thank Lyndon B. Johnson and the New Deal for you being a student at this law school, because without him, Chinese people wouldn't be allowed in this space. Chen, who is Chinese and white, told KQED. We do have records, as I said, about this, so I can't talk about exactly what happened. I can tell you that as a general matter, what would be expected of the Dean of Students is to immediately reach out to the student who was implicated and who made the statement to orientation and sit down with that student and find out exactly what had happened, to offer opportunities for the 2 students to talk with one another. the expectation would be, and again, I can't get into details, that a student who said something as stupid as that, even if they had the free speech right to say what they said about affirmative action, nonetheless might be quite apologetic about it. And it would be the dean of students and others like the care advocate, Annie Rosenthal, to do what they could to resolve the situation in an amicable way, but also to explore whether it is a situation that either implicates our conduct code or otherwise implicates Title IX. And we have a Title IX coordinator, Andrea Bing, and we have general counsel that review all of these cases. And so we would, again, do everything we could to reach out and support students when things like this happen. We can't control what one student says to another student, but we can certainly get involved thereafter, make sure that they have the resources to support them. And finally, I will say that in both students' situations, they're both now rising 3Ls, are now Emily Hahn, our Director of Student Services, and I think Annie Rosenthal as well, our care advocate, has reached out to the two students that cited these two instances and have asked them if there's anything that the school can do or anything they can do individually to assist them. So I'm happy to answer any questions about this. I am proud of how far we've come in diversity, equity, inclusion. I recognize absolutely that we still have a long way to go, but we, with the California Scholars Program, with the climate survey, with the diversity, equity, inclusion working group, Mario Lopez himself is now and has been over the last year and a half or so, the director of diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives, and has done a fantastic job both on general initiatives as well as developing the first gen program, which 20% of our class are first gen. 54% of our students identify as students of color. And so again, these are things that, the reality is when you have a large community like we do, when you are embedded in a society that's as polarized and difficult as we are, and we're dealing with legal questions that are as controversial as we deal with on a day-to-day basis in the classroom, these kinds of things cannot be fully avoided, but I do think that they can be fully redressed, and we can give our students the support that they need. So I'll leave it at that. Happy to answer questions about that incident, those incidents, diversity, equity, inclusion more generally, and the sense of community, but also other things that are happening on campus. And thank you, Barbara.
Okay, thank you so much, Dean Figment, for the remarks, and I appreciate you addressing the questions that Kathy and I had around the article when it came out. I don't know if anyone else has questions for Dean Figment or any comments. Okay, well, thank you so much. And unfortunately, you can Google it and find the article pretty quickly if you were not aware of it. So hopefully we'll get more updates later on about how we address it from a publicity perspective, as well as how we actually address the concerns as well. Okay, so next on our agenda, what I'm going to turn over to.
I actually, that you saying that, Barbara, actually did bring something up in my mind, at least. And I don't expect any answers to this, but I would say that both I didn't know about it until you mentioned it, and I quickly Googled it, pulled it up and skimmed it, which of course meant that I was multitasking, and one's brain doesn't do that with the language center. So I was hyper splitting my attention. That said, I'm interested to know if down the road, if given that there was the subject of a public story, once you've done the investigation and all of the legal stuff is in place, if these could serve as something as part of orientation for all students about how the school is addressing things going forward, so that it's not an abstract, these are our policies, go to these people, but instead, this is how we would have liked to have handled something in the future. It's just something that can be, it can open the door for people to come forward and talk about things with some openness if they're given examples. Of course, the story with the LWR hypo being as fraught as it is probably not the greatest thing to be putting into an orientation packet, because it's just amplifying an aggression.
Yeah, no, I agree, Rachel. I think that we have decided not to respond to the story more generally because we don't think it's gotten much traction. We don't think it's accurate. They did come to us and ask us for a response about allegations of discrimination on campus, but they didn't tell us when they, so there are general quotes from me that we responded to in the story, but we didn't know who the students were and we didn't know what the allegations were. KQ did not share them. So when you read our response, the response is quite general because we didn't know anything. And then we are, as I said, somewhat restricted in what we can say because we are under federal law and there are privacy protections for student records. And in all honesty, if, you know, I don't know what the details are in the legal research and writing situation. If it happened and we didn't know about it, it's shocking because there are just too many students that would have been involved in it for that, something like that in San Francisco, not to have come to our attention at any level. And then if it didn't happen, but it was reported by KQED, in all frankness, I wouldn't go out of my way to make any a big deal about it. For me, it's talking to the student and trying to find a way to have that student feel part of our community and move on. So it's just a question of, you know, this is a very delicate, as you say. I think you're exactly right, though, that during orientation, we have to do everything we can to make as concrete as possible what the resources are that are available. We do that. All of you may remember your orientation very well. My orientation in law school has been lost in my memory completely. And what we find is whatever you present during orientation, you have to present another half dozen to a dozen times in the next year. So it's the kind of thing that we just have to keep on letting people know. I do think knowing that we have a care advocate and we have an ombudsperson, two separate offices that are both dedicated to giving advice to students when they find themselves at cross purposes with the institution, and they're both independent. I mean, they both ultimately report to me because they have to report to somebody, but they are completely independent and they're both confidential. They're both non-reporting officers. And so I can't imagine institutionally creating two offices that would be more protective of student confidences than the care advocate and the ombudsperson. So I think that will be very helpful, Rachel, to your point, is at least getting them started on having a conversation about how they can take advantage of the processes that we have to get redress if they've been wronged or hurt in any way whatsoever.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you, Dean Figman and Rachel. Thanks for the question. Are there any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to move it over to Carol Hamilton, who has a fundraising update.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. We're on the road in Washington, so I hope my signal's okay. It looks like it is. First, I really just want to thank all of you who participated in making gifts this fiscal year. It's so important, and I know it's easy to forget, so we all appreciate it to all of you who have made your commitment, and of course, hope that those of you who haven't will. So just to give you an update on where we are, this report that I'm giving you, actually my numbers are not as of the 30th. So there may be a few contributions that came in after I got these numbers, but at the numbers I have are with 62% participation as of the middle of May. 26 governors have participated in gifts thus far, and 16 governors, at least as of mid-May, had not yet participated. So if some of you have participated in the last week, it might not be recorded yet. And then 19 out of the 23 governors who gave have met the 1,000 suggested donations. So thank you so much for that. And then, you know, we had the Day of Giving on April 13th. 7 governors gave on Giving Day, which raised $5,000. And we're going to make the Spring Giving Day a tradition, which is going to be similar to Giving Tuesday. So that will give everybody an opportunity to give at different times of the year, because we have the Spring Giving Day, and then we have also the Day of Giving. So that will be starting, of course, this coming spring, and or next spring actually. So there's still time to. Now there's plenty of time actually to make your contribution for this next fiscal year, because it just started. So please put that on your calendar so you don't forget. And thank you again for all of you who have made the contribution. So appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Carol. I do have a question. I think there are some governors who have probably donated funds to alumni chapter events and didn't necessarily report it. I'm just presuming that may have happened. So if they have given in other ways that's not directly associated with our Giving Tuesdays, how could they make sure their contributions are counted?
Well, I mean, are you talking about making contributions to like LEOP and Moot Court? Is that what you're talking about?
Moot Court, or I think sometimes when there's like chapter events, they may end up donating to part of the event. So I just want to make sure if that is the case,
well,
capture it. Yeah.
Carol,
well, oh, okay, go ahead, Meredith.
Carol, this is Meredith. If you would like for me to answer the question, I'm more than happy to.
Okay, go ahead, thank you.
Those numbers that Carol is reporting are from any giving to any chapter event, journal, student org, anything. Those are total donations to the law school.
Okay, great. Thank you for that clarification, Meredith. Appreciate it. Okay.
And you do bring up a good point though, Barbara, which is, I just want to remind everyone that, of course, you know, if any of you have a special affiliation with or affection for Moot Court or LEOP or Constitutional Quarterly, the UC Law SF Foundation, of course, you know, you can always specify that your contribution goes to one of those entities, and that will be counted towards the $1,000 that we're all committed to giving. So, and you know, it's really nice to support these separate entities within the school, because of course they need our support, and some of us have been very involved in any or all of them and like to support them. So that's a great way to make your contribution.
Now, thank you so much. And I know people are very modest on this board, but I know people have hosted events that they're not going to share. You know, I'll put Kathy on. I know Kathy hosted an event at her home to do a scholarship fundraiser and had students there. I know others in LA have had events where they've also supported them financially. And so I don't know if they're telling you. So I'm just saying, if you're on the board of governors and you have hosted an event or contributed directly to the school, and it may or may not be captured, I recommend that you just connect with Meredith and make sure whatever you've done is documented. So.
And I also want to just suggest to any of you that are interested in doing this, that if you raise from another student or alum or someone, anyone for that matter, if you raise $1,000 or $500 or whatever, that also is attributed to your commitment to make a $1,000 contribution. So keep that in mind, and that's always a great thing to do anyway, because the more people that we can engage with the school, the better. Not just so much to raise money, really, but just to have that engagement with the school. It's really important. And sometimes this is a way to get people engaged, even if it's not to raise that much money from them. I mean, even $100, whatever, it starts to get them engaged. And so it's as much about getting the engagement as it is about raising the money, which of course benefits the school and probably benefits them as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Carol. This is very helpful. Any other questions for Carol? Okay, so the next thing we have on our agenda is we have a really wonderful panel who have some really great insights to share about what's going on at the law school. So most of them are not strangers to you, but I'll let them introduce themselves. So In order, I think I have in my order, we have Elizabeth Moore, or Liz Moore, who's going to share what's going on with the communications office. We have our fellow governor and also had our director of diversity, equity, inclusion, Mario Lopez, who's also presenting today. And then we have our own Meredith Jaggard, who has some really great updates about kind of more details about what's been going on with the alumni office and a lot of great things that have happened this year. So I'm going to start with Liz to give your presentation, explain what you do, and then we'll have everyone have a chance to ask you questions.
Great. Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So I'm so delighted to be invited today, and I recognize some of your names and faces from our social media posts and articles and photo galleries. So it's so great to be here in person. I just want to thank our folks in the advancement office for including me. And since January 1st, it's been a very big year for us with the renaming and the rebranding, and we've done just some really fun and exciting projects, some that are continuing. I have a 5-slide PowerPoint. If you'll let me just share that with you, you can see some of those things in action, which I think will just make it a little more fun. Let's see. All right, can everyone see that okay? Are we seeing that okay? Okay, good. So just to go a little bit explaining some of the things that we did early in the semester, and I have to give Jenny Kwan a lot of credit for really keeping everyone on task with the rebranding and making sure that we were all getting the assets out to the people who needed them. So we were very excited to have a brand new seal and some word marks that reflect that University of California color. We're really embracing that we are a San Francisco location. So you see San Francisco right on the seal, and our word mark is very elegant and very classy. And we really just want to promote that sort of excellence and professionalism that we're so proud of. So some of the assets we have been able to produce for staff and faculty include stationery, business cards, a PowerPoint template, guidance for new social media names. We have a front page banner on our website that talks about updating the school name and any questions you might have. We try to keep that updated as much as possible so that people can sort of follow along. It does take several months to go from being one name to being the other. We also have some Zoom backgrounds, and I'm sharing this with you because if anyone needs any of these assets, we're happy to share them with the board as well. I'm very excited to show that we had these beautiful commencement photography that really was the first time we got to showcase our new logos, our new seals, the student stoles that they wore during commencement. And so it was really a public facing way to just show our new branding, and I'm just really proud of that. The other thing that we did, which we did not have before, was something that we might call spirit marks at an undergraduate institution, where we have a lot of different ways to showcase the name. And I have to give Meredith a lot of credit because you'll see all of these beautiful symbols at our new online store that she has founded and developed. And you can buy t-shirts and coffee mugs and lanyards and tote bags with all of these different symbols on them. And so it's a lot of fun. We don't always have to have a very formal look to our new logo and name. And these are just very quick snapshots of what some of this looks like. I stole the dean's stationery to show you what that looks like. And these are some samples of business cards that our business center can produce for people who may need them. And again, I really wanted you guys to get to see this just in case any of these things are useful for you. And then a little bit of a sneak preview of something I'm very proud and excited about, and that are the new banners that will be going up around the city of San Francisco. We had them in 2021, you may recall, and they've been redesigned to reflect our new name and our new colors, and really to showcase some of the value propositions that we're most proud of. And then two things that are not on the slideshow, but I just did want to mention, is that we have a national marketing firm that we're partnering with starting this summer, and they will be also developing some messaging to law firms across the country, to law schools, to get our name out there. They'll be producing a tagline and a video and other assets that we're very excited to let the whole world know about our new name. And I am currently on a very big deadline, and I have to again thank Advancement for all of their good work for an alumni magazine. We're going to be very excited to share that with you this fall. And it really does showcase a lot of the wonderful work that our advancement department is doing. And just to wrap up very quickly, if you do need any of these items or you have questions about them, I've included my contact information and a couple of links to where you can find some of these things. And also, again, just so excited about that online store. So thank you, Meredith. We have Pride shirts. Actually, you can buy a Pride shirt for the first time ever with our new name on it. So thanks for letting me share that. I'm not sure if folks have any questions for me. I'm happy to answer them. Great. Oh, and then finally, just one last very quick thing. We have a brand new electronic media director who is handling our social media. So I just encourage everyone to keep an eye on our Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn, because she's just super dynamic and our engagement numbers are really rising. We're going to keep that robust content going on all summer. So again, thank you for including me. And if you have any questions, you can throw them in the chat if you'd like.
Okay, thank you so much, Liz. This is very helpful. I'm excited about all the new items that we can go purchase. I'm behind. I feel I only have one item, so I need to get in there. So thank you so much. If there's no further questions for Liz, I will transition over to Mario, who is our Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And let me just see, I think I saw a question come in. Okay, so we do have one question from Rachel. It says, when will faculty and staff email addresses be reflective of the name change?
Yeah, great question. So that I believe is coming later on in the summer, because I know that our website is being revamped as we speak. We have a contract with a vendor who is working to revamp. We'll have a beautiful brand new website, and our new electronic media director is working very closely with all the departments for fresh content and beautiful photographs and updated information. So I believe that that's the first goal. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn. And then sometime by the end of summer, I think that the emails will follow.
Yeah, I would just add, thanks, Liz, and the presentation was great. When the emails change over, the name, so mine is fegman.d@uchastings.edu. The UC Hastings will just be replaced with uclawsf.edu. But if you send an email to the Hastings address, it'll be automatically forwarded to the new UCLawSF address.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Okay, thanks, Liz. We appreciate your time. And now we'll transition it over to Mario Lopez.
Thank you, Barbara, and good evening, everyone. I'm actually in Krakow, Poland tonight, so the evening time, but afternoon time out in California. Good to see everybody. I want to take a few minutes here to update you on some of the new initiatives that we launched this semester, this spring semester. But the work on many of these initiatives have really been the culmination of a hard work that's been done over the last few years. I really want to thank Chancellor and Dean David Fagman on that, and you'll understand why in just a few minutes. The community principles is one of the cornerstones that we're really excited about moving forward for our students, for our staff members, and for our faculty to work together on. But a lot of this work started back in 2018 when Chancellor and Dean Fagman created the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Working Group. The working group is comprised of faculty, staff, and students, and is designed to give advisory recommendations to the Chancellor and Dean on matters of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So in 2018, this body was created. Then in 2020, the Chancellor, working closely with the community, created the strategic plan for 2025. And out of that strategic plan, one of the recommendations was to create the campus, to do a campus climate survey. And so in 2021, in the middle of a pandemic, the campus worked really hard in creating a survey, of which we had a very high response rate. And from that survey, which asked everyone, faculty, staff, and students, what do you like about Hastings, and what are the areas that we can improve on, specifically on campus climate issues. One of the recommendations that was created was for the diversity, equity, inclusion working group, or to explore community principles, and also the creation of the ombuds role. And so the chancellor received these recommendations, and he tasked the diversity, equity, and inclusion working group this year to explore community principles. And that's what we did. We spent the entire academic year working together as a group, creating principles, and then going out to the campus community. When it came to our first draft of these principles, getting their feedback, we had town halls for faculty, for students, for staff. We had drop-in office hours. We had information sessions. And we worked very closely also with the chancellor's office and making sure, that we were communicating to the community on what these principles were, what the purpose was. And then we got all that feedback back. We made some edits, and then we voted to recommend community principles to the campus as a recommendation. And the chancellor and dean approved that recommendation. And so this fall, the chancellor will be sending out a message later at the beginning of the academic year, introducing the community principles. And it really goes to the heart of what the chancellor said earlier today. We want to be a community where we respect one another, where all our community members feel safe, where we can have and must have tough conversations. We are preparing our students to be future lawyers, and we want them to be fully prepared and engage in uncomfortable situations and scenarios that they will be doing in the courtroom. And so we want to give our students every tool possible to be the very best lawyers that they can be. And we really view the principles as yet another tool, a very important tool in helping achieve our goals. Second, is the Ombuds Office. Big thanks to the Chancellor for approving this position. The Ombuds is going to be a new role. It's going to provide informal conflict resolution. It will be a neutral party, and it's going to serve faculty, staff, and students. So all of our community will be able to benefit from the services. We went ahead and spent quite a bit of time researching other ombuds offices throughout the University of California system, and also some other institutions, to try to get the best of each model and tailor it to our school. We're a standalone law school. We're not going to have the demand that other schools have, but based on every single bit of research that we learned from, is that while only typically 3 to 5% of students or community members use the Ombuds office, it has a huge benefit to the overall campus dynamic. It's one of those things, hopefully you never have to use the Ombuds, but if you do, it's there and it's ready to help you. So this is going to help us specifically with those areas that they don't violate a specific code, whether it's a faculty code, a student code, or a staff code, but there's still real things that happen to us as community members, right? These are the real interactions, and we don't want them to happen, and we don't want them to build. Having the ombuds is going to be a great way to address those issues directly, and making sure that those issues don't repeat themselves, and that community members have an avenue to address whatever is going on. Lastly, on this front, also the DI departmental strategic plans. This was spearheaded by Assistant Chancellor and Dean and Chief of Staff Jenny Kwan, and LEOP Director and DI Advisor Elizabeth McGriff in August of 2020. They were the first two that really led this effort, and working with both of them directly this past March, we had a refresher workshop for our staff departments. We had great staff participation from the departments, and this is very important, again, because our students are interacting with our staff members in every department. And as staff members, we're part of the community as well. And so having these plans, knowing the resources that departments have to be able to address issues of DI is very important. So we had that workshop, and we will continue to refresh these plans and work on these plans, because it's always ongoing, the work. And then Last two things I want to address. We're very excited this fall. We're going to do our second annual tour. Both Chancellor and Dean David Fegman and I will visit HBCU schools to promote not only the California Scholars Program, but also just the great opportunities that we have at our school here. So we're really looking forward to that trip in late August. And then lastly, on the first generation program, I just want to thank the governors for your help. As I reported last time, we had a very successful event. I've already started working with the governors for events in the upcoming academic year. This past year, we had 24 first generation events. 20% of our campus are the first in their family to go to college. This is a population that is just growing. It's simple math from the first generation populations, both at UC and CSU, which are two largest feeders to UC Los Francisco. And so just huge thanks to the governors for your support, whether it's mentoring, whether it's being there for our students, leading workshops, we really appreciate it. With that, that concludes my report, but happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mario. That was a great report. A lot of information you shared, and I think we do have questions. I know I have one, but I'll first defer to Rachel, who had put one in the chat. She asked, is there any insight into why the stats are only at 3%, or that only 3% of our students are using the Ombuds program? Is it similar to the distrust that employees have of internal reporting and dispute resolution processes? And, you know, as an in-house employment lawyer, I know what she means because I work closely with our chief compliance officer, and they always say the more complaints we get, it's better as a company because it means that people trust the system. And so I am curious to know what are your thoughts around that 3% number, and what are we doing to encourage students to speak up, or others in the community to speak up and make sure they trust, that this is a fair process?
Absolutely. So first, I want to clarify that number. That's the number that we've seen used by other UC campuses. So we're just launching our Ombuds office this fall, but typically at other UC campuses, about 3%. The range is some go up to 5% of the campus uses the Ombuds office. Now, what we're going to be doing with our Ombuds, who right now is starting to set up her office, we are going to promote the Ombuds office. We will do that at orientation. We will do that in a letter that will go out from the Chancellor and Dean to the entire campus community. And also one of the roles, one of the responsibilities the Ombuds has is to collect data. So not to collect individual names, but rather report incident types. And so this information will be shared regularly with the Chancellor, and then also with the appropriate department heads and the community at large. That way we can keep on tracking, and we want people to engage with the office.
Yeah, thank you. And then Rachel's follow-up question was, is there going to be any role for the Board of Governors or any opportunity to interact or support the Ombuds?
Yeah, I'm going to take that one, Mario. So Rachel, it's a great question. The concern would be, I think it would be great for you to meet the Ombuds person and maybe hear general reports from her. I do think that it would be difficult to have students reaching out to governors, partly because the Ombuds by law can be a neutral, and you guys know this better than I do, but is a non-reporting officer, whereas our faculty are reporting officers. So if somebody comes to a faculty member with a Title IX problem, we are obligated to report that to our Title IX coordinator, and it has to be investigated under Department of Education requirements. And so the governors would not be able to play a role in talking to students, but I do think that the governors could play a role in talking to the Ombuds person and just finding out, more about, the culture and the community and other things that can be advancing the sense of belonging on campus. I think that could be very helpful.
That was what I was thinking, David. I'm not looking to become a staff member, in in an ombuds office by any means.
Well, if you are, Rachel, and you want to volunteer, I must say
right. I have enough in my employment docket to keep me busy, and I'm fine with what I've got. I'm thinking more about things like, when we're doing some of our, I think having the stats, having some of the anecdotes about when would we send somebody who we might be mentoring, those kinds of things where, then we're not going to be then having a window into the process. The point behind it is for it to be confidential, right? But to be able to say to people and do it with some confidence that they know it's going to be confidential, that it's going to be handled, in a way that, frankly, the KQED story kind of seems to indicate balls may have been dropped, and I'm not judging, and I'm not saying that to invite it. It's just that's the implication in the story, and I appreciate it could be skewed and what have you. So I think it's really great you're having an ombuds office, because there are those walls, it's insulated walls that protect people that may make it better than somebody going to a dean.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Rachel.
Natalie, you had a question?
Yeah, well, I was going to just add something. I really liked what Mario said about constantly promoting it, because I think a part of it, this doesn't address the trust part, but I think part of it is just being reminded of the resource, because if it was just said one time during orientation where people think it's not going to apply to them, or forget about it, because I'm in the employment space too, and I just had to deal with an incident that came to a CEO's attention where it was an incident that happened in December, and the question was like, well, why are you only bringing it up now? Why didn't you use this compliance hotline? That's so many different resources that people just constantly say, I didn't know about it. And I don't want people to it seems like it's going to be a great resource that people hopefully will be reiterated and reminded, and that this is going to be a great thing that we have beyond just being announced maybe during orientation or whatnot. So maybe we can think about ways to kind of keep it fresh on people's minds, so that if 2 all year, 3 all year, something comes up, they really know that this is a great program.
Absolutely, Natalie. Yes.
I can also see if the ombuds is available for our next staff representative panel in the October meeting, if y'all want to ask them questions and stuff.
I would say this, since the person's going to be new and the role is new, and they're going to be drinking from the proverbial fire hose, I for one would be perfectly happy to have them not have to report to us in October.
Good point. Yeah, well, I'm sure Barbie can work with you on that, but maybe the spring or June meeting. Thank you so much, Hannah, for that. I did have a follow-up question, Mario. I heard you mention you've done some workshops with staff, I believe, and I couldn't tell if it was a DE&I type of workshop, but can you elaborate a little bit more about what you've been doing with these staff trainings or workshops?
Yeah, absolutely. So in August of 2020, Jenny Kwan and Elizabeth McGriff, working with the chancellor, decided, okay, every single department needs to have a DEI strategic plan, right? What are the things that we're doing well? What are areas of opportunity? How are we going to measure success? And so we did these in 2020. We had a refresher workshop this past March to take a look. Okay, what worked well? What are the areas? Okay, we worked well on. What are the areas that we still have work to do on? And then also for other departments to hear from one another. That way they could see, oh, you know what, that's a great idea from records. Let's implement that in fiscal. That's a great idea from student services. How can we do that in enrollment management? And so one of the things that we're going to continue to do is we're not going to wait another 3 years to have this refresher workshop. The three of us have said, this is something we're going to have every single year as it relates to the workshop, but we've also made our services available to each department, each staff department, so we can work with them throughout the academic year. We want to make sure that departments are thinking about these issues on a regular basis, right? And we want to measure success. We don't just want to create a plan, put it on a bookshelf, and that's it. No, we want to keep on looking at the plan to see what's working, what's not, and to learn from one another. We have all these departments. we should learn from other department successes and also where things sometimes didn't go well.
Thank you so much. That's great. I'm glad to hear that there's a lot of forward-thinking approach to this, and you're going to stay continue to train and develop. So that's great. Okay, are there any other questions for Mario? We do have one other esteemed panelist who's going to present to us. So any other questions for Mario? Okay, so we are going to now hear from our Alumni Association Executive Director, Meredith Jackard, who has some really wonderful updates to share with respect to what's been going on from the Alumni Office. So Meredith, I'll turn to you.
Thank you. Hey all, it is so great to see you. Hope everyone is doing great. So I'm going to present about Spring Week. It's something that we've talked to y'all about for a year now, and we have had 2 of them so far, and we have numbers for what Spring Week looks like. And I kind of wanted to explain also why we changed it and what we're thinking about for the future. One second. Okay, so just as a refresher, our past reunion model that we did that I know all of you have participated in was one event. It was about 4 hours, 12 classes a year. So when I first started in 2019, it was reunion year celebrators with a 4 or an 8. And it was typically at the Fairmont Hotel, the Palace Hotel. As you can see, the attendance was fine. It was a great time, but it was very expensive, and the ticket revenue, I thought that we could do more. And you can see that with the tickets sold, just to clarify, it's the tickets sold total, so that's total alumni and guests, and then the alumni number. And so then the pandemic happened and we had 2 virtual reunions. The first year in 2020, it was a novel concept to have a virtual reunion or virtual anything. So it was fun, and we had class celebrations online. And then in 2021, it kind of dwindled a bit. I think everybody was just a little tired of Zoom. So we thought we can do something different. And Eric and I'll never forget it. We were sitting in our office and he said, I think we can do something different. And I said, hold my drink. I think I can figure something out for us. So the alumni engagement team, Charles, Hannah, and Hayden, who is not on this call, we came up with what we call Spring Week. And we moved reunion from the fall to the spring, and we planned a week-long series of events about engagement. We had objectives for re-engaging alumni from the pandemic, engaging donors and potential donors at more than just one event that was 4 hours long, like our past reunion model. And we really wanted to incorporate more young alumni, recent alumni, what we call them, 10 years or out, and then students. Recent alumni weren't a big, huge part of the reunion model from the past, and students weren't necessarily involved as much. So we came up with Spring Week. These are the numbers of our first year. It was last year in May. We were coming, when I say this very lightly, we were coming out of the pandemic. Spring Week in May happened kind of around Omicron. So this is our baseline, and we were really happy with it. We had a great time. With Charles did an amazing job with our Giants event. It was versus Colorado Rockies. We had a cocktail party at the law school. And then we had a milestone reunion jazz brunch. And what that means is that we looked at past reunions and who actually comes to reunions. And we found, based on the numbers, that 5, 10, 25, 50, 55, and 60-year celebrators are who really attends reunions. And so based on that, we did a milestone jazz brunch. I'll say that the tickets indicate it was 46. Those were from 22 plus class years because we invited people from 2020, 2021, and 2022. So we were happy with it. We didn't really know what to expect, but we were thrilled for the next year. So these are our spring week numbers from this year. It was an absolute resounding success, not just because I'm an eternal optimist, but because the numbers don't lie. Everything was above and beyond double, triple what we did the year before. I want to point out a few things. UC Law Day of Giving, we implemented that. We do Giving Tuesday, and we also decided to do just a day for the law school. We had quite a few people participate, new donors, which is always really important. Our city hall event, we rented out City Hall on Friday night. Natalie and her class, I do want to point out, class of 2013 was an absolute winner of Spring Week 2023. They represented like I've never seen before. They were almost half of the 200 tickets sold. We had a blast with them. And we did keep, I want to point out that we did keep the virtual town hall because we wanted to make sure that Spring Week did have a virtual component for those who couldn't travel. Of the folks, speaking of travel, of the folks that did come into town, about a third of the tickets sold for Spring Week for events came from folks out of California. And we were thrilled to see that. Certainly within the first year of Spring Week, we got some feedback that people were just bummed that we weren't going to do a sit down dinner at a hotel, and we understood that. But when I say a few people, 2 people responded out of all alumni about the change in the reunion model, which we talked to them, and they actually, one was from Hawaii and one was from was it Spain? I'm not sure. I don't think they were going to come anyways, but so the feedback was good to hear, and people were excited. Again, I want to point out that a big objective for Spring Week was recent alumni. It was, in some cases, about half of the tickets sold. So those 5- and 10-year reunion celebrators were big. We also this year implemented recent alumni pricing for all of our events, which was very affordable. We did a lot of subsidizing for all of our events to make sure that the tickets were accessible for recent alumni and for all alumni. And then I want to bring your attention to our Giving Day. We had, you all know it as Beer on the Beach, but it's called Squad now, which is Sharks on the Quad. If you have an opinion about it, we can talk about it later, but it's now called Squad. We had a Squad Bob joint event with our boards, and we had our new merchandise pop-up shop on the Quad. I'd want to point out, most importantly, the biggest selling item that I've ever seen fly off the shelf are those flannel pants in the right. The students could not get enough of those flannel pants. They absolutely loved them. We sold out within minutes. And what we did was, if students gave $5 or more on Giving Day, they received 20% off of the online store. And so we had 74 students give $5 or more, and they gave to their student orgs, they gave to the annual fund or the general fund. So we will continue to do that. They were absolutely thrilled to have the merchandise. And then we also did an after Spring Week survey to make sure that we weren't just having a good time. I mean, Barbara and her son at the Giants Dodgers games was amazing. It was so fun. Go ahead, Barbara.
Because my son, the Dodgers, although, you know, we were kind of representing Dodgers, they gave my son their practice ball before the game started. So that just made his whole week, probably a month.
we can't wait to do it again. So
I also think playing the Dodgers helped draw in more of the LA alumni.
Absolutely.
They're
And
coming to a Dodgers game.
Yeah, well, I'll speak to that, Jerome. Good point. So we did an after event after spring week survey, and that was something that we don't normally do, but it's absolutely something that we are going to implement now, so that way we can have the data from the events that we have. And we found out 88% of the survey respondents said they enjoyed spring week. 88% said that they would come again, meaning that even on their non-reunion year. And most importantly, 76% of the respondents said spring week strengthened their connection to the law school. And I want to point out that the other 24% just gave it a 3. It was 1 to 5. None of the respondents had a 1 or 2, a negative anything to say about their experience for spring week, or that it affected their relationship with the law school. And we did, as to Jerome's point, was having the Dodgers Giants game important, and it was important. Now, I do want to point out that the schedule doesn't come out till December of every year. We are close pals now with the Giants, I'm thrilled to say. So we have first come, first serve when they get their schedule for next year, and we would love for it to be the Dodgers Giants again, but I can't make any promises. But we do have an in now, so I'm excited about that. And then here are just some pictures. You know, David Seward came in like he always does and made it happen with the lights of City Hall to light up in UC Law SF colors. It was an absolutely fantastic event, all of them. We celebrated on the rooftop deck and cheers afterwards with our staff. And I want to say Hannah and Charles, absolute all-stars of a team, and couldn't have done any of it without them and their leadership. And it was just overall a very successful week, highlighting what we thought would be something to celebrate, which is all things UC Law. I mean, our campus, our new facilities, new name, new graduates, new everything. That's what Spring Week was all about. And finally, since Eric's not here, he would absolutely be devastated if I didn't talk about the fundraising numbers from Spring Week. So we did have our giving day, which was very successful. But we do have someone who came to Spring Week last year. They had not been very engaged with the law school. They came again this year, and David and Eric cultivated him and met with him and his wife in between the first year and the second year. And they just committed a $500,000 commitment to the law school. So that's just one example. We did have a lot. We have Sarah Antonich, who she was on our screen, but she was our new, oh, hey, Sarah, there you go. Sarah's our new director of donor relations. We did have a lot of new faces at this year's Spring Week to be cultivated, to be handed off to our fundraisers and to Sarah. So we started a lot of great relationships at Spring Week this year, and we just hope to continue for next year. And I want to introduce really quick Sarah Antoinette. She is in her just finished her first month with us. She's a fabulous addition to our team. She comes from UC Berkeley. Sarah, this is the Board of Governors, the coolest board around. Everybody, this is Sarah Antonich.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for letting me crash your board meeting. It's been great to get to see so many new people. I was at the other meeting earlier today, so it's just been a great day to meet a lot of wonderful and engaged alums. So thanks for having me, and I'm excited to be here.
Thanks, Sarah. And one thing, Hannah, thank you for sending me this DM to mention. Looking forward for next year for Spring Week, we're going to keep on adapting, keep on innovating for Spring Week. Something that was that Kathy Ongiri doesn't know that she did, but we're going to do next year. She couldn't make it to the baseball event, so she donated her tickets to 2 students. And we thought, Kathy, you have set a standard. Why not have an option for alumni to buy student tickets, sponsor them, and then next year we'll have a lottery for students that want to put their name in for a ticket. So that way we can have even more students at the event. So thank you, Kathy. I'm happy to answer any questions that you all have about Spring Week. I had a blast with those of you that came. Natalie, Barbara, Kathy, you were there in spirit. It was so much fun, and I really hope to continue to see you guys there next year.
Thanks so much, Meredith. It was great to see you as well, and Jerome and Barbie and others who were there as well. So we had a great time. I don't know if anyone has, I have a question, but also if anyone else has a question for Meredith. And you can just go off mic if you do. I'm off mute. So Meredith, I think I forgot to ask this before, but I don't think we had like a block of hotel rooms for out of town guests. And have you thought about getting a block of rooms where we can get a competitive rate as a group?
We didn't this year. We had the Proper Hotel. We did speak with them about having rooms. The Intercontinental in Union Square had a UC Law discount, but not a block. That's, I think that is a great idea. We used to have that at the Fairmont for folks. Definitely would think that would be a great idea. Thank you for that.
Sure, thank you.
Question on that, because I actually booked at the Proper and ended up being so expensive that I found a random hotel in the Tenderloin instead. But was that discounted rate for the Intercontinental mentioned in like the emails for signing up? It was okay.
Under the FAQ. It was down, way down the page. But I think that based on what you're saying, Natalie, that's something we could put in the emails to let people know about that.
Yeah, I think like a one line, like if you're interested in a hotel block or discounted rates or something, that would have been helpful.
Okay.
But overall, really, I've already sang my phrases on it, but such a great time. And everyone I spoke to about it really enjoyed it too. And I feel like it was a good balance too with like talking about the future and wanting to like support the school, but not being too over the top in terms of donations. Because I think the most important part is just getting that re-engagement from people that might have not been as involved in the past.
Yeah. And I've forgotten to mention, I don't know if you all are familiar with CASE. It's a higher ed industry standard that many of us follow. I was on a webinar a few weeks ago with them, and CASE is it's worldwide. And there were alumni associations on there talking about, oh, we want to redo reunion. Our reunion is just stale, blah, blah, blah. It's like Groundhog's Day. And I got, on there and said, oh, well, we've actually just changed ours at UC Law. If you're interested, please let me know. And by the time that I finished my commute and got to work, I had 52 emails from schools across the world, including Michigan, A&M, Berkeley, Dublin, Madrid, I mean, everywhere, wanting to know what we were doing at the law school. And so just this week, Hannah, Charles, and Hayden and I presented to all of them about our model. And we actually, I don't know, I feel like we should start a consulting business. Now we have more meetings with them individually, their schools and their staff, to talk about what we're doing at the law school. Most specifically, UC Berkeley wants to model their UC Berkeley Law wants to model their reunion off of our Spring Week now. But they said that they don't have the buy-in from the leadership. So they're trying to figure out how to make that happen. So we are just thrilled to be able to tell all the good news and be able to interact with our colleagues and kind of be the pioneer for a new way of looking at reunion and homecoming.
I hope you can make money from all that consultation in some way. But that's amazing, Meredith. I didn't hear that before from you. That's pretty great to hear.
It was brand new, and
Yeah.
we just jumped on it. It's exciting.
Well, thank you. So just so everyone know, we did also have a student rep who was going to be on the panel, but that student couldn't make it. So thank you for sitting through and plowing through without breaks, because I will give you some time on your calendar. And then Barbie is traveling. So she was about to go on a train and she said, I may get cut off on my train. So she couldn't, be here for the very end, but I just wanted to recognize Barbie. I think Barbie, Rachel and I joined the board at the same time in 2018, if I remember correctly, and I've worked together in some, have so many great interactions through committee leadership and otherwise. So, Barbie's an old veteran and she's going to be awesome as our next president. And so she was going to try to give remarks, but she had to get on the train. And so she will be, again, scheduling a meeting in the summer and taking over after this fiscal year. So starting July 1, she will be the president. So I'm excited to hand this over to Barbie, who is just amazing, has been such a great support this year. And again, just thank you to everyone for joining today. So have a great afternoon.
One question. Are we
Yes.
supposed to vote on a president-elect, or are we going to do that in the next meeting?
Yeah, good point. So we're going to have the next few days because, we have great candidates, but everyone has to balance it with their other commitments. And so that's still being finalized. And so it's going to be part of our special election this summer to vote on the president-elect for next year, who would become president in July of 2024. So thank you, Rachel, for pointing that out.
Okay.
Barbara, thank you for your service. It's really deeply appreciated. So
thank you very much. Okay, well, have a great afternoon, everyone. Take care.
Thanks so much, Barbara.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Everyone.